Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Angela, and today we're going to be doing a bit of an Austin, Texas book shopping vlog. I'm so excited to be filming this. It has been so long since I've done a book shopping video, and these are some of my favorite to film and vlog. I got so many books from Austin. I went completely overboard and I have no regrets. Got some adult fiction, some young adult fiction, some nonfiction, and I also got a mystery book. I have no idea what this book is. It says if you like dark fairy tale retellings, sisterhood, and family curses. I found this in the young adult section and it's sort of a mystery date with a book. I'll be unwrapping this later, but let me know if you have any guesses. I never heard of a story like this that had dark fairy tale retellings with sisterhood in it. And then I saw a YouTube video about a week later that talked about a fairy tale retelling. It was something about 12 dancing princesses. I don't remember the name. I think it's blank of blank and blank. I think that's the typical YA naming style. I have no clue what the name is. I will be happy to find that out. So on the way to Austin, I picked up a book called Jane of Austen. This is a Sense and Sensibility retelling set in Austin, Texas. We have two sisters, Jane and Celia Woodward, who are forced to leave California and go down south to Texas along with their sister Margot. Jane is very passionate about tea and she spreads the joy of tea wherever she goes. I love seeing her constant enthusiasm for tea making throughout the book. It felt very natural and she was so dedicated to this art that couldn't be taken away no matter what happened, whether it was with her romance, it was with a family situation. This was something that was very constant in Jane's life. I love that she found something that could bring her joy and comfort, but also bring joy and comfort to others as well. It was just very, very sweet. Jane falls in love with a musician, Sean Willis. If you've read Sense and Sensibility, you know exactly where this is going, and I'm trying not to reveal anything in case you haven't. The book is told from two perspectives, Jane's perspective and retired Marine Captain Caleb Beckett's perspective. And I love that there were two perspectives that were shared in this story. Each perspective felt so unique. You could tell who was Jane and who was Beckett at all points, and I thought that the story came together very nicely. The romance for this book was so sweet and so wholesome, and I really enjoyed it. It was Southern chick lit with a Jane Austen twist, and I was living for it. I loved the infusion of Austin in this story. There were so many places mentioned, like Amy's Ice Cream, Torchy's Tacos, the Driskill Hotel. I discovered the Driskill Hotel through this book. In the book, it's described as a place where Lady Bird Johnson and Lyndon B. Johnson had their first date. And so after reading that, I knew we had to drive by and check it out. By the time we got to Austin, I was almost done with the book and we headed to a place called Bennu Coffee. This is a fair trade, locally owned and operated coffee shop in Austin that has tons of workspaces. It's very cute and cozy. But the reason that I went was for their gourmet mocha menu. They have literary inspired mochas, which is so cool. All of their mochas are named after different classics. They have the Raven, they have a Scarlet Letter. We got two, and this one in particular is the Oliver Twist. This one is sweet with a hint of caramel, which is not what I was expecting considering the storyline of the book. I was expecting it to be kind of bleak. I don't know why, but I really like this one. The other one that I got was the Pride and Prejudice, which is just as strong as Elizabeth Bennet's personality. It is so strong. It's definitely a pick-me-up. After sipping on some coffee, we drove through some leafy neighborhoods and eventually we ended up at BookPeople.
The roads that lay open are many when the old one's gone under the knife, and I can feel the sun on my skin beginning to thaw from within. Tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today is a good day to live.
This is the largest independent bookstore in Texas. I thought it was one of the coolest bookstores in Austin. This has been voted best bookstore in Austin for over 20 years, and I can clearly see why. It is huge. Their collection is unimaginably big. I think the bookstore was 3 floors. 2 floors were open at the time that we went, but it was so large that I felt like if I walked through this bookstore, I could miss so many sections. I could go back every day for a month and probably still have missed some shelves and some sections. This bookstore has had so many authors come in for author signings. I think they still have like a virtual authors event series. They've had authors like Junot Diaz. They've even been visited by former President Jimmy Carter. So it's a really old bookstore, but it's also one that is very, very well known. It's a very popular bookstore, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to visit. On one of my earlier trips to Austin several years ago, I only stopped by the Austin Public Library because the views from the top of the Austin Public Library are so incredible. Let me show you guys the books that I got because I'm so excited. The first book that I picked up is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This is part of the Wayward Children series. This book follows a main character, Nancy, who has gone into a world that's kind of like a Hades underworld. And when she comes back, she has trouble adjusting to reality. So she's sent to a boarding school with other children very much like her. I thought it was so well executed. I ate this book up. I read it so quickly. It was so good. The concept itself was so novel, and yet the execution matched the intensity of the idea. This is a magical realism book, so it's no surprise that I love it as much as I do. You feel the magic of this story, but it also has these darker undertones because there's this light horror element in the mystery aspect of the novel. It can be quite grotesque, but I felt like it was very light horror. I'm not someone who can read horror very easily, and I was able to get through this. All of the children in this book want to go back to their own fantasy world, and it's such a magical tale that walks us through all of these different worlds without us ever stepping into them. The whole novella just felt like a dark fairy tale, which are the kinds of fairy tales that I absolutely love. This is a series I definitely want to continue forward with. You can read it as a standalone, but it's one that I'm very excited to pick up because I heard that each one follows a different student. So in this case, we have the perspective of Nancy. And one of the things that I loved that was explored about Nancy is that she is an asexual character. I don't see that representation very often, so I was very excited to see explicitly asexual representation in a story without it being hinted at. And I love this book so much because it takes this trope that I already love. I already love the trope of portals going into new worlds, and I feel like fantasy needs way more portals because that's something that I'm an absolute sucker for. I love that this also twisted that trope into something that was new, like what happens after the kids come back, because that's not a perspective that I've seen until this. I think that Seanan McGuire did such a great job of executing that what happens after tale. The next book that I picked up was The Joy of X by Steven Strogatz. I had really high expectations for this book, but I don't think I was the right target audience for it. The book starts off with addition and ends up with topology, statistics, infinity, and it goes through math from literally 0 to infinity, and it covers so much within a very short span of space. And I think that was one of the problems that I had with it, is the fact that there's so much covered and it advances so quickly that there's not a lot of time to flesh out any full proofs for each of the topics covered. So what we get is an overview of each subject and then one main concept within it. After that, it's this idea of if you didn't get it, it's okay. Let's move on to the next concept. I found that to be a very brush-off mentality, but I also understand that within the space of the book and the scope of the book that it wasn't possible to be more in depth. I do think that the audience for this book, with the dad jokes and puns and style of humor, was for parents who are looking to relearn a bit of math to help their kids with homework. I think that was the target audience for this book, and I definitely did not fall into that target audience, so it left me a little disappointed. That being said, I do think this book is great for visual learners. There are lots of diagrams, and the author models out a lot of the concepts in this really intuitive way. He does make math feel a little less stringent and more natural. I'm probably going to be picking up a different book by him. I just think that this one wasn't the right one for me. But if you are looking for math books, I have tons of math book recommendations. Let me know if you want a video on that below, because reading books about math is one of my guilty pleasure reads. Is that weird to say? The next books that I picked up I found in the clearance section, and this is A Nest of Vipers, which is part of the Inspector Montalbano mystery series. This is an Italian cozy mystery series that I just discovered when I picked up this book. This is one that I now want to work my way through. I really like the main character. He gives me a little bit of Poirot vibes. He is very clever, but he's also very forthright when solving mysteries. That being said, I did not like this mystery at all. This particular mystery, I didn't like the concept of it and the execution of it. I thought it was going to be a little more cozy. Cosimo is a widower who dies, and afterwards he is found to have some salacious photography. So then they're on the hunt to find out who killed him. Was it done for revenge? Most likely revenge is what it's thought to be. And the story took an interesting turn. This book probably had every trigger warning under the sun, and it was quite graphic. I wasn't expecting it to be graphic. Like, the actual death wasn't graphic, but in terms of the salacious photography, a lot of the more lurid details were dived into. I did find the ending for this very disturbing and quite nauseating. This was not for me in terms of the ending. I couldn't get past the idea of it. When I was reading it, I had a sneaking feeling that I knew where it was gonna go, and I just thought, I don't think my mind's going in the right direction. Like, I'm sure this is a lot more innocent. I'm sure this is a lot more pure. No, it's not. It went exactly in the direction that I hoped it wouldn't go, and I don't fault the inspector for that. I just do know that when you have a cozy mystery series that spans multiple books, some are gonna be a hit, some are gonna be a miss. This is definitely not the mystery for me, but I do want to pick up other ones because I do think that the author's style of telling the story is quite clever. And when I looked at reviews for this, I heard that this is not his best book. So that's very promising to me. And for that reason, I do want to consider some of the other books in the series. I started watching the adaptation for this, not for this book in particular. I think I'm gonna skip the adaptation for this, but I started watching the adaptation for this series. I'm actually really enjoying it so far. I love that the murders aren't grotesque at all, and I love cozy mystery adaptations. So watching an Italian cozy mystery come to life, and this series, this book, really brings Sicily to life. In particular, it is so much about the Sicilian landscape, and it does such justice to that. And I heard that this particular story that I read and within the whole cozy mystery series doesn't include Sicily as much as the other books. So I'm really excited for the other books because more Sicily is something I would be really interested in. And I think the original book, I read a translated copy, is written in Sicilian, like Italian, in that particular dialect. So I thought that was really interesting that it's very local, very native to Sicily, and a lot of the things that are within this bring that full Sicilian cultural immersion that I just was kind of looking for. It is getting very dark. I hope you guys don't mind. I know the lighting has changed a little bit, but I have one more book that I want to talk about in addition to the unboxing. So sorry about that. The next book that I want to talk about is Mr. Wolfson's Cabinet of Wonders. So I picked this up because a couple years ago when I went to Houston, there was a Cabinet of Curiosities exhibit, and it's something that I wanted to learn more about ever since then. So when I found this book, I knew that I had to read it. And this book is split into two parts. So the first part feels very much like a museum experience. It follows a museum of Jurassic technology, and that's the Curio Museum that's covered. And the way that the author describes it, you do feel like you are walking through this museum. You're experiencing it with him, and whatever questions he has, he's investigating further, and you feel like you're investigating with him. That being said, the vocabulary of this book is so tight. This book is only about 100 pages, but it took me a lot longer to get through because I was looking up so many words. There were so many words in this book that I just did not know what the meaning was, but it didn't come across as pompous. It just came across as, this is the way the author writes, and this is his vocabulary, and it just happens to be a lot of words that I do not know. I did like learning so many new words. But I also want to talk about the second half. So the second half talks a lot more about the history, and while it was history that I did already know in terms of a Cabinet of Curiosities, there were a lot of facts that I found very interesting. But I love the way that this was written. This is very literary style nonfiction, which is one of my favorite types of nonfiction. This is the Pulitzer Prize for general nonfiction, so very unsurprising on that front. But I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty peculiar book, but it's also one that captures so much wonder within the way that the story is told. You will want to visit the museum by the end of this, and I have definitely added this museum to my bucket list. Okay, it is time to unbox this. I don't know, it is so dark outside. I am so sorry. This says, if you like dark fairy tale retellings, sisterhood, and family curses. And we're about to find out what this book is. I'm gonna try and do this on camera. I'm so excited. Oh, I don't want to damage it, but there's like tape here. Oh, it's coming off easily. Yes. Okay, side one is done. I'm so nervous. I don't want to rip the book accidentally. Which book am I gonna be going on a date with this week? It is... Oh, it opens to the back. Okay, House of Salt and Sorrows. It was a blank of blank and blank. I can't believe it was a blank. I was just trying to make a Sarah J. Maas joke. Well, this is House of Salt and Sorrows. This is the book, and this is the title. In a manor by the sea, 12 sisters are cursed. Annalay lives a sheltered life at Highmoor with her sisters. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short, each death more tragic than the last. This is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. I have only ever seen the Barbie movie, so this is gonna be a lot of fun because I heard this is really dark. I'm really excited to read this week. Oh, it was a New York Times bestseller, and it is a standalone fantasy, I believe. Oh, it has these cute little octopus tentacles around each chapter marker. Oh, that's cute. Yes, so I'm really excited to read this book. The cover of this book is so stunning. I think it would look really nice as a hardcover copy. I'm really happy with the paperback. I actually don't really care either way. I know what I'm reading this week. I'm so excited. Those are all of the books that I got in Austin, Texas. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below what bookstore you recommend I visit next in Texas. I'm trying to visit bookstores in Texas right now. I'm not really sure if we'll go out of state soon. Maybe. Not sure. Maybe not yet. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.